Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday, Grey Tuesday in January. I'm assuming it's the same for everyone, not just me here in Bristol. Just while we're letting everyone come on in, come say hi. Where are you from? Oh, possibly you can't actually do that. I think we have got the chat off for you. Just running through some housekeeping very quickly, just to let you know, as always, we're recording today's session, so you will receive a copy of the recording, and you will be able to add one CPD point to your record for attending this. If you have any questions, please do just put them in the chat. Myself and Angie will be keeping an eye out on things and we'll be able to address everything. Anything we don't get around to today, we'll obviously be able to pick up with you outside of this webinar. I can see people are still joining, so thank you so much, everybody. We're delighted to be joined by Xero today for this webinar all about payroll. We know payroll is a very popular service offered by ICB members, so we hope you'll find this update very useful. And we're obviously thrilled to be joined today by Andy. So thank you so much, Andy, for joining us. And we're going to take people through some updates over the next 45 minutes or so, I think. And we're looking forward to a really good session. So thanks so much, Andy.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and thank you as well to the ICB for having me, I suppose, virtually, right? We've done a few of these webinars over the last few years, especially about payroll, MTD for income tax, and so on. So yeah, great to be back, of course, with ICB. So thank you again. You can see me, so I thought I'd literally just let you know I'm not AI. That's what everyone thinks nowadays. I am a real human being in my house, talking to you today about payroll. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my camera off for the remainder of today's session. But you should still hear my voice. I was about to say my wonderful voice. That's a bit arrogant, isn't it? My nice voice, speaking to you about the topic of today's discussion. Now, really quickly, of course, you have the chat box. Great to see you all flowing through there. Welcome again. You're calling in from all different areas of the country. I myself am based up in a little town called Cleethorpes in northeast Lincolnshire. So if anyone is near there, make sure to pop an emoji there in the chat box. Love to see if I've got any locals online. I will also be using the Q&A as well. So if you have any questions, please do drop it in, whether it's the chat box, whether it's the Q&A, whatever works best for you. I'm going to get your questions answered, possibly throughout the session, but definitely by the end. We may have an extended Q&A at the very end just to round everything off. Cool. So my name's Andy. I'm a senior education specialist here at Xero, which fundamentally means that I'm going to be taking the time today to speak to you about Xero Payroll and the benefits that it can offer you, such as time efficiencies, how you can deal with real-time information, and so on. So we're going to be going through some key features. Now, by the way, this session in and of itself is the exact same as what we host on our Xero website. So this could be taken as an alternative to that first step in discovering what Xero Payroll is all about. And I'll recap quickly what steps 2 and step 3 are, but by all means, you have some extended content on Xero Central if you do wish to check it out after today's session. Anyway, this step is the first one in your learning journey, where we're going to be discussing key features of Xero Payroll and how it can help you to save some time when it comes to managing and administering payroll specifically in your company or your practice. Now, we've got a lot of content coming your way, so hopefully you are all ready and raring to go. And by the looks of the chat box, you are. So it is worth mentioning too that at the very end, I'll be sharing with you some handy resources. So please do stick around throughout today's content. Now, actually, one of those resources is going to be a link to that second step in your learner journey, which is your Xero Payroll Specialist course. And here we quite literally dive even deeper and take you through every single tab that's available in Xero Payroll. You'll also be able to download a badge once you've passed the assessment to display proudly, potentially, on your website, LinkedIn, wherever you would like to host that. And we also have a third webinar, Get Ready for Payroll Year End, which we deliver between February and April every single year. And it just recaps how you can close off the current payroll year and get ready for the new one, including a review of all those new rates and thresholds, which will, of course, be coming into play in April. Anyway, more on that later on. Right now, though, let's take a look at what we're going to be getting up to. Now, we're going to kick things off by talking about the benefits of Xero Payroll and how it can help to streamline the payroll process. Next up, we're going to be demoing Payroll Manager. Now, Payroll Manager is a free tool available in both Xero HQ and Xero Practice Manager, and it helps advisors to streamline those payroll-related multi-client tasks. So, for any advisors that are on today's webinar, and that should be the majority of you, of course, with the ICB, who maybe potentially process payroll on behalf of clients, you'll be able to use the Payroll Manager tool as long as you are signed up as a Xero partner. So, becoming a Xero partner is going to be fundamental to you getting access to this Payroll Manager feature. We're going to be jumping into some back-to-back demos as well to bring some key features of Xero Payroll to life. One of those demos will include our Xero Me tool, which is how employees can self-serve their own information. It will allow them to maybe access their timesheets, their leave requests. They can update their employee record and so on. Of course, they can also access their payslips and P60s, by the way. We'll also have a look at how Xero helps you to stay compliant with the pensions regulator for auto-enrollment and with HMRC for those regular payroll submissions. And of course, as I've mentioned before, last but not least, we'll go through some questions and I'll give you some next steps to take you through the very end of our course. So, Xero Payroll is a cloud-based, HMRC-recognized payroll solution that fully integrates with your Xero accounting package to provide you with a single connected platform. Now, it's based up in the cloud, so you can access it from anywhere at any time. And it automates day-to-day processes, ensures compliance, and reduces any risk of errors being made, which can help you to keep accurate digital pay records. Now, we found within our own studies that 92% of customers already using Xero Payroll say that they run payroll faster using our Xero solution. So let's have a look at some of those features included within. Now, one of the most complex tasks associated with processing payroll, and I speak from experience, by the way, as an accountant and actually a bookkeeper as well, before I started with Xero, working in practice. One of the most complex tasks associated with getting started in the first place is migrating data to a new software. That can be especially tricky if done partway through the tax year. So you'll want that process to be as efficient as possible, entering in organization and employee data correctly in Xero. That's going to be a crucial step that you take. So Xero Switching Wizard makes that process simple, fast, and accurate. It offers guided data conversion, reduced manual data handling, and a more efficient and accurate migration. All you need to do is upload the latest FPS submission file in XML format from your previous payroll software, and you're good to go. In fact, we've already found that businesses using the wizard are saving on average 10 days worth of processing time. That is 10 days, you heard me right. That is a hell of a lot of time that could be used elsewhere. Now, to learn more about how the switching wizard works, I would recommend signing up for the Xero Payroll Specialist webinar, which of course I'm going to be popping a link in the chat box at the end of today's webinar. So again, please be sure to stick around. Now, that's not all, of course. Xero Payroll integrates with HMRC for tax code updates. That's a really important one there. So administrators will receive a notification of any changes made to an employee's tax record with a P6 or a P9 notice. Xero will in fact update the taxes tab within the employee record, and a history of all changes will be kept so you can easily see what's been updated over time. When it comes to making sure employees are paid correct amounts for national minimum wages, we've got you covered as well with a recent feature release. You'll have access to real-time reminders that alert you where an employee's earnings fall below the relevant threshold. This can be set up in your payroll settings with alerts and prompts shown in the employee record and within the pay run itself, which can help to keep you compliant at all times. Now, talking of compliance, for those employees who are entered into a new NI category, so for national insurance, which will be triggered by a birthday in the current pay period, Xero will also process this important compliance task on your behalf. Xero will notify you of the change and update the employment information tab within the employee record automatically. So to recap, we deal with tax code updates, national minimum wage calculations, national insurance category letter updates too. Now that really does underpin our complete philosophy of ultimate compliance. Xero automatically assesses your employees as well for auto enrollment each time you post a pay run. We'll produce the correct employee communications once the assessment has taken place, and eligible workers will also be enrolled into the company pension scheme. We will also automatically deal with re-enrollment on your behalf as well. Now, one more mention just before we move on in our slides here is probably the most exciting automated feature, which is coming your way really shortly. It's our Xero Payroll payments tool. Because here at Xero, we're on a mission to streamline the payroll payments process by bringing together the entire workflow. Powered by secure open banking, it'll eliminate the need for manual bank payment files and uploads, meaning that your entire pay run process, from timesheet to payment, will happen in one secure, seamless, and efficient workflow. You'll be able to pay employees directly from Xero. Once you've got that secure connection set up, within the pay run itself, you'll see a blue Make Payment button. You'll now have the option of paying those employee net wages without leaving the Xero platform. Simply select the bank account, authenticate, and pay. So quite a lot of automation and compliance checks happening there in the background, I'm sure you'd agree. But let's drill a little bit deeper into pensions specifically. Now, it's super simple setting up your pensions, by the way. You have inbuilt guidance and our step-by-step approach, which helps you to understand the options available to you, making sure you're compliant at every turn. In fact, 95% of customers agree that Xero Payroll helps them to stay compliant. For those of you using Nest or the People's Pension, you'll be glad to hear that we've built a direct integration with those providers, which means that once the connection is live, changes made on the pension website can be updated in Xero at the click of a button. And it's nice and simple to send the pension file across to the provider. Now, please don't worry, by the way, if you're using another provider aside Nest or the People's Pension, you will still have access to all of those PAPDIS file formats in CSV or PDF, which you can, of course, download. These can then in turn be uploaded to your pension provider's webpage, which makes contribution payment scheduling a breeze. So whether it's a direct integration or those editable PAPDIS file formats, you'll be able to manage all your pension reporting obligations from the Pension Filings tab. Now, outside of pensions, what else does Xero Payroll do? Well, I could keep you here for the rest of the day, but I've only got an hour or so with you. So you may already be aware that each time you pay an employee, there is a report, of course, called the Full Payment Submission, or FPS for short, that has to be submitted to HMRC by real-time information. Now, if this isn't sent by the employee's payday, you may get an online penalty warning message, or even worse, a penalty itself. So to help you avoid this nightmare, Xero sends the FPS automatically when you post a pay run. If you have any employment allowance or statutory pay to recover from HMRC, the employer payment summary, or EPS for short, will also be sent automatically by the 19th of the following month. Now, once your pay run is posted, you'll also want to ensure that your reports are kept up to date with those all-important expenses and liabilities. Well, remember, Xero Payroll links directly to Xero Accounting, giving you that single connected platform. 86% of accountants and bookkeepers using Xero agree that having an accounting and payroll all together in one place saves them time. So each time you post a pay run, a journal is created and posted automatically. The journal updates the accounts with figures from the latest pay run, which eliminates the risk of time-consuming mistakes being made by posting it manually. And that will save you a lot of time throughout the year. If you offer employees benefits in kind, you can payroll those benefits through Xero, which means no more complex P11Ds to complete at year end, and no more complicated calculations either. These are done for you, and the information is passed to HMRC on the full payment submission we just mentioned. Now, we're dedicated, by the way, to continuously adding more and more features to Xero Payroll based on your feedback. For instance, back in 2024, you asked us to take a look at the leave function specifically, as it wasn't providing you with the flexibility to set up a custom schedule of accruals the way that you wanted them to be. So here's an example. We actioned that feedback and we gave you a custom option to choose from, which means you can now align the holiday year to any date within the calendar. It could be April to March, it could be a random date, whatever you would like to choose. And just on the topic of leave, these changes were only the start. We've also updated the leave function so that you're now able to view leave in not just hours, but days and weeks as well. It's small but mighty changes like this that are constantly on our radar. We want to give you the very best experience when using our payroll solution. Now, lastly, how can we forget about the employees? If we don't have them, there's no one to pay, right? They're a really important part of the process because without them, there'd be no need for payroll. Well, your employees can be invited into their own portal called Xero Me at no extra cost. It's included as part of the subscription. They can use Xero Me to request leave, submit timesheets. They can also access payslips and P60s, which is going to save you valuable admin time. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Xero Me is also available as a free mobile app, which can be downloaded on both iOS and Android devices, so they can access these great self-serve features on the go. So hopefully, as you can see there, Xero Payroll offers loads of different benefits, all of which are aimed at simplifying the payroll process and reducing the time taken to manage payroll. With Xero's single connected platform, we can streamline our workflows and become more efficient as a payroll administrator. Now, with that in mind, it is important to note that Xero Payroll is available on all subscription tiers, with the exception of our new Xero Simple plan, which is for MTD for income tax. Now, fundamentally, this means that you have flexibility to add employees as and when you choose, regardless of which subscription you are on. Whether it's Ignite, Grow, Comprehensive, or Ultimate, you'll pay a fixed fee per month per employee. Now, by the way, with Grow, Comprehensive, and Ultimate plans, you will have a standard amount of employees that you can add, already included in your subscription price. As you can see on screen there, Grow, you've got 1 employee included, Comprehensive, 5 employees, and with Ultimate, you have 10 included as standard. Which means that if you need any additional employees, again, it's a fixed fee per month and the prices are there on screen. So it gives you flexibility to manage payroll of varying sizes. One thing I'm always a bit surprised to learn when we get on these webinars and even the webinars we host on our Xero domain there is that a lot of people aren't aware that they already have those employees included within their subscription plan. So for any of you that are currently using Xero or maybe thinking of switching across to use our payroll solution, bear that in mind when it comes to deciding which tier you would like to go with. Now, we've had quite a look at a few different benefits there in Xero Payroll so far, all of which are accessible to both small businesses and advisors alike. And when it comes to getting the most out of a payroll software solution, I'm sure that we can all agree you need one that you can trust, one that gives you confidence you're compliant at all times, one that gives you enhanced flexibility when it comes to managing different types of clients, and a software that makes the process of administering pay runs easier, whilst simultaneously streamlining those multi-client tasks and reducing manual errors. And dare I say it, speaking from experience, moreover, I would like a solution, if it was me, that gives me access to real-time insights. Now, we're going to be taking a look at some of those key features in just a second with our demos, which will be aimed at delivering on these needs. But firstly, I want to focus our attention specifically on those advisors that we have in the room today, which should be the vast majority of you. Because for those of you that are administering multiple payroll schemes at the same time, we've created a customizable dashboard called Xero Payroll Manager. Payroll Manager is a free tool available in both Xero HQ and Xero Practice Manager, and it helps advisors to streamline those payroll-related multi-client tasks, which means that you have instant access to crucial payroll data from a single unified platform. Again, accounting and payroll all in one place. That's exactly what you want. So let's jump straight in and take a look at how it works. But just before we do switch our screens, remember, Payroll Manager is available to payrollers, accountants, and of course, bookkeepers, anyone who operates payroll on behalf of a client. And most importantly, those who are signed up to Xero's UK Partner Program. By becoming a Xero partner, you'll unlock a wide range of practice tools and benefits, not just solely for the purpose of payroll, by the way. Some of you here may already be taking advantage of these benefits. But for those of you that are yet to sign up, what I'm going to do is pop a link here in the chat box so you can find out a little bit more about our UK Xero Partner Program that we have available to you. Now, by the way, for those of you who are maybe not advisors or not signed up to the partner program as we stand, absolutely fine. I'll be giving you some more information at the end of today's session. So let's hop across and let's take a look as to how it all works. Now, I'm going to really quickly open up my Xero HQ organization, which we should now see here on screen. So Xero HQ open, and you'll notice that we've navigated straight through to our landing page, which is in fact our clients tab at the top here. Now, the payroll tab is where I want to be. This is where we have that payroll manager dashboard available. So we're going to hop straight through and give it a click. There we go. Now we can see immediately that we have a table on screen. Now this table will give you a centralized view of all of your Xero payroll clients in one place. Now, when you first access Payroll Manager, you will want to set these clients up by using the Manage Clients button on the right-hand side. Now, I've actually selected all of my clients in this instance, but in your case, these will be those day-to-day payrolls that you take care of within your practice or within your organization. Now, the clients you select here will give you instant access, of course, to those Xero payroll organizations. So all of that data is being pushed through seamlessly. Now, the number one benefit of our Payroll Manager dashboard is that you don't have to individually log in and out and back in to other clients' individual organizations. We can see all of that information here from this eagle-eyed dashboard, if you will. It will save you time. So we can see those obligations that need our immediate attention from the list on screen. We've got all the information that you would want access to, such as the client name, the organization name, pay period, payment date, and probably the most important one, the pay run status. Now, it's important to note that here within this Payroll Manager dashboard, we are able to initiate a draft pay run using the overview menu. So again, no need to log in and out of individual clients. We can initiate everything from the dashboard. And below that line break, you will also have access to all of the individual tabs that you will find in those Xero payroll organizations. So if I wanted to find out the leave for a list of employees within one client that I have, I could use the leave tab. Keeping up the payroll manager on one of my screens on my computer, I can hop into the timesheets for another client or even the pension filings. I'm sure you get the picture. We're saving ourselves time navigating through each of those individual organizations. At the top, we have some sort and filter options, so we can break down this list here. There we go. We can break it down by all the obligations we have upcoming within the next 30 days. I might just extend that a little bit to the next 3 months. There we go. A little bit more realistic for us today here. We can filter and we can, of course, sort our columns as well. Any customizations that you make on this dashboard will automatically be saved, ready for the next time that you log in. Now, once we've posted the pay run within the organization, we can hop through to our posted tab. And here's where it gets really important, because the posted tab is the perfect way of managing all of that post-submission data. So we have all of the good stuff that we saw earlier, such as the client name, all the way through to the pay period columns, but we also have some additional ones too. We have the total cost, and we can also see the variance column as well. Now, the variance column compares the current pay run to the previous pay run. And we've indicated whether it's favorable or adverse, that difference, by using the colored arrows. So you've got really quick, colorful insight into what exactly is happening. Of course, as advisors, the one thing that gets us up in the morning, apart from a good breakfast, is to have a look at our journal entries. We all love a debit and credit, don't we? Absolutely. Well, we've given you access to your very own journal report here, which will show you where Xero is posting that automatic journal on your behalf. So you can check out those report codes for the debits and the credits. And finally, we also have our open posted details tab just here on the right-hand side. Now, this is a really useful summary of all of the data contained within that pay run that you have posted. It's quite literally a say what you see at this stage. We've got the basic information at the top. I'm sure you can see that there. It's posted. We've got the aggregate totals as well in this banner, which, by the way, totals up all of the individual calculations. And funny enough, below that, we've then got the individual calculations for the employees. Please don't worry that the employees' names don't look realistic. Remember, we're using demo data in today's session. Now we can scroll through those calculations, and from the overflow menu on the right-hand side, we have the option of viewing the payslip, emailing it as an encrypted payslip, so password protected. We can download it. We can even navigate straight through to the employee profile if we need to make any changes to their record. Scrolling down further, this summarization page gives us access to the FPS filing as well, which Xero sends on our behalf automatically, and the pension filings too. So we're easily able to manage all of that from within this summary screen. If we did need to hop into the pay run though, we can do so using that button at the top. Now let's go back one page to our payroll manager dashboard because there is one final tab I would like to show you. It's the setup clients tab. You're probably thinking, why is there no information here? Don't worry, I planned that. The setup clients tab is one that I personally can't use at this stage because I've already added all of my clients. So this tab here will alert you to any of those employees that are currently not using Xero Payroll, but who are using our Xero accounting and bookkeeping ledger. So it's a really useful tool to use, which can highlight each of those clients that maybe you want to bolt on payroll to their accounting package. Now, with that being said, let me quickly switch back to our slides just for a moment to explain it in a little bit more depth, because the screenshot I've included on screen gives you a bit of an example as to what you may see. Now, as I said earlier, 86% of accountants and bookkeepers agree that having accounting and payroll all in one place helps to save them time. And we saw as well how our pricing plans are feeding into this overarching narrative. Now, with payroll available on all subscriptions, with the exception of our new simple plan for MTD for income tax, it gives users the opportunity to quite easily set up that PAYE scheme without hassle and seamlessly link it back to the accounting package that Xero provides. So from this screen, we're able to see the current subscription plan for applicable organizations. We have that column just there, plan type. We can, of course, hover over that information bar. We can see how many employees are included as standards. And we can, of course, jump straight through to our seamless onboarding experience for those clients by clicking the Setup Payroll tab, just here on the right-hand side. Now, by the way, just on a side note, that self-service onboarding tool, that will in part be dictated by yourself, the employer, the payroll administrator, if you will. But you can also hand the baton over to your employees also, whereby they can enter in a lot of their information within the Xero Me tab. So basic contact information, email address, postal address, a photo of themselves as well. That will all seamlessly link back to their profile, their employee record that you will then be updating later down the line. Okay, so that concludes our look today at our Xero Payroll Manager feature. You're probably thinking, what's next? Let's refocus our attention to not only the tools available to advisors, but to anyone on Xero Payroll. So from here on out, every single feature that we have a look at will be available regardless of whether you are signed up to the partner program or not. So let's switch back across to our organization, and I will close off our Payroll Manager dashboard to get us through to a live organization that we have available, Emily's Designs. Now, here within Emily's Designs, it's pretty much like a typical organization here. We're reconciling the bank, we're running reports, we're, of course, sending out invoices to our customers. We're going to be spending the majority of our attention within the payroll menu dropdown at the top. Now, the payroll menu dropdown at the top there, you will see that you have access to all of those standard administrative tasks like managing your employees, their leave and timesheets, and of course, processing payroll too. But we also have a payroll settings tab at the bottom. Now, this is where you jump through to set up the organization. You will, of course, be able to use the switching wizard and jump through to the payroll settings after the matter, but By the by, we're not going to be discussing that in today's session. The one tab that we do want to focus on, though, is Xero Me. Now, just to set some context on why we're seeing Xero Me in this organization, is because within Emily's Designs, I am both an administrator, so I'm running the payrolls, and I'm also an employee. So that's why I can see Xero Me, because I'm an employee, and above I can see all those other admin tasks, because I'm an administrator too. The reason I highlight this is safe to say when you invite your employees into Xero Me, that free employee portal, they will only see the Xero Me option from the payroll tab dropdown. Cool, so let's jump straight through to our web browser version of Xero Me. And of course, remember, you can download this as well to iOS or Android as a mobile app. So for the next few minutes, whilst we're looking at the employee portal, Xero Me, I'm going to be taking the role of the employee themselves. So here within my employee profile, I can see that I have access to the annual salary and my earnings year to date. And a neat little security feature here, especially if you're working in open office plan environments, they're grayed out by standard. All you need to do is hover your mouse over those two options and you'll be able to see the figure. I can see my next payday on the right hand side, and I have a few different tabs available to me. Now, we're going to go through those tabs in just a second, but the landing page will be the overview section. Now, from this overview, we have access to our most recent payslips and our most recent leave requests. And there's a reason why I emphasize the word recent, because that is what it offers you, recent documentation. Moving on, we then have access to our My Details tab. Now, this seamlessly links up to the employee record that the administrator will be managing. So as an employee, like I am now, I can update certain pieces of information, which will be pushed back through to that record, and again helps to save the administrator some time. So I can upload maybe, I don't know, a cheesy grin there, maybe a profile picture. I can update my personal details, contact information, and of course my emergency contact too. Now, bear in mind, I can't update my earnings. That would be a little bit out of order, but nevertheless, I can definitely update my contact information that is held. Now, the next tab is our payslips tab. This one's slightly different from the overview because within the overview, we only had access to our most recent payslips. Well, within here, we have access to every single payslip since we started with the organization. So as you can see, I won't go through each and every one of them, but I've got quite a lot of selections here. I've got 22 pages worth of payslips. I can even filter it down by a range at the top using the calendar option. I can see the period, the payment date column, the total net pay, and I can even download it to PDF format if need be. Next tab is our leave tab. This is where I can see the available leave balance to me, the employee, and I can also send across a new leave request. Now, I have only got one type of holiday or leave, should I say, assigned to my employee record, and that's why I'm seeing this balance here at the top of my screen. Now, if I had multiple types of leave, maybe paid study leave, unpaid leave balances, I would also see those too. So it really depends on what the employer or the administrator, should I say, is assigning to those employee records that's available to the employees themselves. From this tab, leave, I can see the leave type, description, leave period, and probably the most important column, the status label. So I've got approved, completed, there's a few rejected ones at the bottom there. So the leave tab shows you every single leave request since the start of that employee, starting with the organization, whereas the overview just shows you the most recent ones. We then have the timesheet module. Now, by the way, the timesheet module within Xero Payroll is completely optional. You don't have to use it if you don't wish to. But it's a really useful tool to use if you have employees with a high variability of hours. So maybe they change every single week or month or fortnight. Funny enough, in Xero Payroll, you can manage multiple different calendars on the same platform. So a few employees as part of the weekly calendar, a few as the fortnightly or monthly. Depends on what you will need. Now, as you can see, I'm a weekly paid employee. So at the top here, I've got my very own timesheet ready to create for the week ending the 25th of January. Now it's currently in draft status, so all I really need to do as an employee is to fill in some hours, some recordings of what I've worked. So first column is the type or earnings type, I should say, that has been completed. So we've got regular hours, overtime, and so on. The middle column is the tracking category that's being used. And within Xero, you can have up to 2 tracking categories with up to 100 category options available, which then filter through to our reports like the profit and loss, giving us deeper insight as to where those wage costs are coming from. You don't just have to use tracking categories for the purpose of payroll, you could use it for any other area of Xero too. So let's say I worked in the London office, 8 hours. Yeah, we stayed in London for a fair few days, Monday through to Thursday. We then went up to the Manchester office. I don't know why, probably a sales call or something along those lines. And you know what? Sales call went over. We dropped in a few overtime hours too. So you can see how we're able to flexibly change those hours within our timesheet. We've got a nice little summary here in the top right hand corner of all those total hours. And below that, by the way, for any of you using Xero projects or thinking of doing so, you can draw in hours from that module, from that solution that we provide, so you can reduce that duplication of efforts. You don't need to add it in projects and again in timesheets, just click the button and it will pull through those hours for you. So we can delete the timesheet, but to be honest with you, I've filled it incorrectly. Let's go ahead and hit submit. Now, by the way, that brings me to the end of the demo where I'm an employee. Okay, so from here on out, I'm going to be the administrator. Let's exit our Xero Me platform and we're going to be the administrator from here on out. And as an administrator, before I go ahead and process the pay run for this week, there's a few tabs that I will want to review underneath the employee management section. First up, I want to have a look at the leave tab. I'll need to review all of that leave that's coming through from the employees. Maybe they need approving, rejecting, whatever it may be. Now here within the leave tab, it's broken down into current leave and historical leave. Now we're just going to focus within the current tab where we have some search, filter and sort options. And funny enough, we've made it nice and easy to navigate through this page with different sections for upcoming, not yet paid. There would be a paid section too if we'd have paid any holidays, but we've broken it down for you. Now, as an administrator, all I need to do is open up one of these leave requests. I can review all of the information that's contained within. So the employee, the leave type, the description and dates, and I can choose to approve it, which I've already done, by the way, or I could decline it, or even decline it with a reason. So maybe just letting the employee know why. Now, funnily enough, this pop-up that we see here, it looks the exact same if the employee was submitting the leave. They fill in the exact same fields. We're able to also view our leave as hours, days, or weeks. Now, bear in mind here within the leave tab, as an administrator, we could actually override that employee submitting process by using the new drop-down. We could raise a leave request on their behalf. We could even go ahead and process statutory leave, like statutory sick pay or statutory maternity pay, just to name a few. So leave is all good to go. We've checked that. We are happy with what's been included. The other tab we need to double check is the timesheets tab. If you remember, we just submitted one as an employee. So let's go ahead. First of all, choose the pay frequency, and it's defaulted to weekly, which is absolutely fine. And we'll choose this week, ending the 25th of January. Now, an important point to note is if you or your employees are using the timesheet module within Xero Payroll, that will take precedence over any other method of earnings calculations. And what I mean by that is if an employee enters their timesheet in, you approve it as an administrator, that is what is going to be paid. So you'll need to double check that it's correct. Because if you have other things set up like pay templates or working patterns, which we'll dive into in our next webinar, they will not be paid. It's the timesheet that really makes the difference. And again, timesheets are optional. You don't have to fill them in. You could use those other methods if you'd like to. By opening up that timesheet, which is ready for approval, we can see all of those calculations that have been entered by the employee. We've got a summary at the bottom there, and we can quite easily choose to approve it or decline it. Of course, I'm going to go ahead and approve it. It was me that entered that information in, so it should be correct. And we're now ready to process our pay run. Now, before we do process that pay run, just to quickly mention something I just said there, timesheets and other ways of calculating earnings on payslips. Let me show you one example. Now, if we head up back to our payroll tab, we open up our employee management section, you will notice that we have all of our employee records listed here. And I'm going to open up my own employee record just to double check some details. Now, a really useful tab that you have access to with all of your employees is the Pay Template tab. Now, the Pay Template tab, think of it like this. It's a permanent payslip that automatically populates every single pay run. So any permanent items here, like pensions, student loan deductions, salaries, whatever it may be, make sure they're included on this tab because that will automatically pull through to the draft payslips, which will ensure that you don't have to manually enter in earnings or deductions one by one every single pay run, which can take up a lot of your time. Now, it looks like we've already got a working pattern set up, which quite frankly means that we've got an earnings calculation in the background being driven through to our pay template here. But remember, we've just approved a timesheet, which will take precedence over any details that we have entered. But other things we can see are some regular overtime. We've got our pensions relief at source. We have a student loan deductions for our plan type 1, and we've got a few benefits and reimbursements added as well. So these will feature every single pay run. And if you do make any changes, of course, remember the golden rule, that is to hit save. And we can now move through and take a look at a pay run itself. So to access pay runs, we can head to payroll. It kind of does what it says on the tin there. It's our pay employees tab. And this is where we'll have access to all of the different pay calendars that we would like to operate. Now, by the way, you can see a banner at the top of our screen. I'm not going to be diving into this in too much depth because we do go through this in our Xero Payroll specialist course, but this is where we have that national minimum wage compliance feature, which Xero is asking us to set up to make sure those checks are occurring in the background, essentially to make sure that we are compliant and paying the right amounts to the right employees. From the drop down, we can see all of those payroll calendars working alongside each other, which means you're never going to run the risk of missing paying an employee. And of course, in the table, we can see all of those posted or draft status pay runs. Now, we're interested in the weekly pay run, of course, because that's the one I'm included in on. Let's go ahead and process it. Now, once we've selected that pay run, or pay calendar, should I say, you will notice we're drawn straight through to this page here, which is our draft pay slips for all of the employees that have been assigned to that weekly calendar. We've got aggregate totals at the top, which just sums up all of the totals for each employee. And then we have our payment date section. Now, this will automatically populate based on the frequencies that you set up in your payroll settings. But you do have flexibility to change that payment date, whether it's a bank holiday, so maybe you need to bring it forward, or maybe you need to push it back. So we can override the decision here. You can add in a payslip message. Great work, team. This will appear on every single employee's payslip. Or you could even pop in maybe just a memo, which is just for that employee specifically. So please sign your employment contract. Smiley face, of course. There we go. Apply. So payslip messages for everyone. Memos are just for that individual employee. Now, what's important to note that before we go ahead and process this pay run, we do have access to a wealth of different reports, activity details specifically, and options too, such as viewing that P32 report, viewing the pay slips, or even downloading the bank payment file. So you do have access to reports before you go ahead and process that information and finalize it. Something I found that as being really useful is when I worked in practice, I would send across the payroll activities summary or details, whichever one I felt like doing that day, get approval from the client. Once they said good to go, I could then hit post. Now, we're not going to post this pay run straight away because there is one thing I would like to show you, and that's within my employee's payslip. Now, as we move through to that payslip, you'll notice that all of that pay template data has been pushed through for me. So there's nothing that I need to fill in manually. Now, here's where the magic happens, because we've been talking about Xero timesheets for quite some time in today's session, and you'll notice that on the right-hand side, there is a blue paperclip icon, which means that this week's earnings have been calculated via that timesheet rather than any other method. And funny enough, I could open that timesheet up by clicking that link. It'll pop up in a separate tab. So if there are any last minute changes that are needing to be made, we're good to go. We can even make those changes within the draft payroll itself. Now, talking to changes, of course, whilst we have that pay template pushing through our permanent items, from the add dropdown, we can make any short-term adjustments. So if it's a bonus that maybe needs to be tagged on in light of, I don't know, great work that week, we can, of course, update it, and Xero will refresh our balances in real time. As we scroll down, you'll notice that we have deductions for our Reviva, which is our pension. One important thing to mention is I've actually already been assessed for auto enrolment into the workplace pension scheme, so deductions are starting to take place. If that was not the case and this was a new employee, remember, Xero deals with that auto enrolment assessment on your behalf. So if this was the first pay run for a brand new employee, Xero would automatically enroll after assessment, of course, once the pay run is posted. Assessment is triggered, they get entered in, and the pay items get added to their pay template. So Xero really does deal with all of the red tape surrounding pensions, as long as you set them up correctly within the employee record. And we've got some student loan deductions, and of course, tax, tax and NI, that's pretty standard. And at the bottom, probably the most important figure is our net pay. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit save. There we go. All those updates have been saved for me. And I'm going to follow this breadcrumb back to the overview screen. So we are good to go. We can now hit post. Now, once we've hit post, you'll notice that this pop-up window lets us know two key pieces of information, which Xero completes on our behalf. So number one, the full payment submission, or FPS, will be sent to HMRC automatically. And our reports will also be updated with that journal. Journal is posted for you, capturing those expenses and liabilities on your balance sheet, for example, or your profit and loss. So we're going to hit complete pay run. Pay run has successfully been processed. It's now been posted using that label at the top. And just whilst we are within here, you'll notice that the view reports has been slightly updated. We've now got a journal report available. And we also have some different options within the options tab. Now, one option you could seek to use is the email payslips function, which allows you to send out encrypted emailed payslips as soon as the pay run has been posted. In fact, the instructions on how to decrypt that is within the email itself. And usually it's like a range of NI numbers or their birthday as well. The employee's birthday just unlocks it for them. Now, the other thing to remember is you don't have to send encrypted emailed payslips, because as soon as the pay run is posted, the payslips will be automatically available on XeroMe, that free employee portal. So they can quite quickly log in via the web browser version, iOS or Android app, and they can just access those payslips ready to go. P32, fantastic for paying the correct amount of liability to HMRC. It will show you all of those statutory payments, recoveries, all those liabilities that are owed. And you'll also see the bank payment file. This one's really useful because you can download a BACS or a faster payment file to actually pay bulk net pay to employees. Download it, upload it via the bank, let's say NatWest, for example, and all of those bulk payments will be sent through, which makes it nice and easy to reconcile when it comes time to balancing your figures. So now that our pay run has been posted, a few quick things to mention before we hop back to our slides. A few reports that I'd like to show you. First of which is within our payroll menu drop-down, it's our pension filings tab. Now the pension filings tab literally aggregates together all of those pension earnings by calendar that you've processed, and you can then manage those files or even that integration with Nest or the People's Pension. For example, week ending the 18th of January, we can see the employee and the employer contribution. If you have an integration with Nest or the People's Pension, you will see a Submit to Provider button here on the right-hand side. If you don't use those integrations, you can still download those PAPDIS file formats using the overflow. And of course, one thing to mention too is that we have that filing due date entered within our settings. So if it was overdue, we would label it up for you with an orange marker here. You can manually mark these as filed as well. So once they're sent, you can manage everything from the pension filings tab. And one final report to quickly show you, and this was the one that I definitely printed off and sent to my clients when I worked in practice, was the gross to net report. Now, funnily enough, the gross to net report is housed within our report center. So if we go to reporting, all reports, you will notice that we have our very own payroll section partway through our page here. There we have it. Gross to net. Fantastic customizable report that we can use just to summarize all of the data within that calendar's pay information. So we can choose however many or however little employees we want to include, whether it's based on the payment date or posted date. We can also add or remove any columns. And in this instance, I'm going to summarize by employee and hit update. So the reason this report is called the gross to net is because it quite literally shows you gross earnings by employee, all the way through all those deductions to the net pay. So gross all the way through to net, and everything on the right hand side will be employer costs on the profit and loss. I could then export it to PDF, Excel, or Google Sheets, which then allows me to send it through to a client or a stakeholder within the business, just summarizing all of the data within that pay run. Fantastic. So let's switch back across to our slides. A few more things to go through before we get to some questions. Next steps. Where can you go from today's session? Well, number one, I would recommend that you test out all of those features we've gone through and just have a general play around with Xero Payroll within the Xero demo company. Everyone has access to that who has a login to Xero. Number two, please do register for our Xero Payroll Specialist course. I'll give you a link in a second. And if you ever need any help with how you can use Xero, not just for payroll, but for any area, please do access our Xero Central support articles. So let me share with you some useful links in the chat box. Now, what I would like you to do is just double check that these do in fact work. They should do. I've tested them. If they don't, more than happy to get you a live link right now, just to ensure they are tip-top, good to go before you leave today's session. First one that you've seen there in the chat box is to our Xero Payroll Specialist webinar, where you can register. And I've also dropped one into our UK Payroll landing page, just giving you an overview of much of those features that we've discussed today. There's another link as well for your Xero pricing plan webpage if you want to make the decision of how or which subscription, I should say, that you would like access to. And I've also dropped in a few other handy articles and video links for our switching wizard, as well as our YouTube payroll playlists. So please be sure to take down those links before you leave today's session. It'd be really handy if you click them, maybe bookmark them in your web pages so you can access them moving forwards. Okie doke. So I'm going to take some time to answer any questions that remain in both the Q&A and the chat box. I appreciate you sent them in both, so more than happy to answer any that we see here. Give me 1 second as I just scroll through them. Here we go. So first question is from Fiona. Is it possible to get the payroll activity details report in a column format with a line for each employee rather than a list of each entry for each employee? Let's have a look. Let's have a look live, Fiona. So what I'm going to do in this case is I'm actually just going to follow the breadcrumb and access the payroll activity details report from this report center here rather than the pay run. So we can go to payroll activity details, and you're asking for in column format with a line for each employee. Okay, so let me run it first. Cool. A line for each employee, not within the details report, as far as I'm aware. Let me keep this open and then also open the summary as well, because there is a summary report which gives you a little bit more of a higher level overview. Give it a second to load. Update, there we go. Yeah, not necessarily by the looks of it. Um, because we can't summarize by employee, unfortunately. The only thing you could opt to do is if we head back to our report center, there is the gross to net report, which we discussed earlier, where you're able to, of course, see those earnings for the period by employee. Is that what you're asking for, Fiona? Let me know in the Q&A. Oh, brilliant. I've just answered. I've just answered the second question. Cool, no probs. Another question here. Can Xero Payroll integrate with different employees clocking in and out options? We do have Xero Projects available, which has a clocking in and out system for the projects you're running within the business. What I would say is you also have the App Store. Using this app launcher here, those nine white dots, you can view all the apps within the Xero App Store. We've got over 1,100 third-party integrations. So if I put clocking, I doubt it's going to find anything actually if I put that in. Oh, well, there you go, time tracking. Plan Day could be a good option as well. That is a solution owned by Xero as well. So have a look through the App Store, I would recommend when it comes to integrations. Good question here from Share. Can Payroll Manager be used as a standalone module if we use another accounting software? Um, It's a great question. But as long as you're signed up for the partner program, you'll have access to Zero HQ. You will have access to Payroll Manager, but you will need to add your individual client organizations to Zero Payroll. The reason I'm saying this is if you're going to add them to Zero Payroll, you will, by nature, have access to our bookkeeping and accounting module. So whilst you could just use Zero Payroll, you're essentially paying for the accounting and bookkeeping package as well. You might as well use it, or at least consider using it, and maybe switching across from another software. Again, accounting and payroll all together in one place. There could be a cost saving to be had there. And Rachel, can the payroll calculate net to gross figures? It can't, unfortunately. It doesn't go from net to gross, but of course you can customize the pay template to make sure that you are getting accurate figures from gross to net. But no, net to gross doesn't work, unfortunately. Catherine, what would be the best way to add monthly rolled up holiday pay for irregular and seasonal workers? Great question there from you, Catherine. Love it. Let's go to employees and have a look. We have an option that we can choose from within the employee record here. Head to the leave tab. If you assign a leave policy, I don't know, let's just choose that one. That's fine. There is this option here, each hour worked. Now, for those of you conforming to new holiday pay reform measures, you would want to use this. You will enter in the amount or the hours worked by the employee, and for each hour worked, the employee will accrue their holiday in the rolled up way that you're saying there, Catherine. So hopefully that's okay for you. Let me know. We do cover this in our Zero Payroll Specialist course. Samantha, if I'm a Xero advisor, how much does it cost to process payroll monthly? And can I run payroll for someone on free agent or QuickBooks accounting software, or do they have to be on Xero? You can use Xero Payroll, okay? But the only thing is, standalone, by the way, should I say? Let me finish my sentence. But the only thing is to get access to Xero Payroll, you will be buying an accounting or bookkeeping subscription. Payroll is the bolted on product, if you will. So it's always worth just understanding the migration process, of which we have courses on Xero Central. Again, there could be a cost saving had on that. But yeah, absolutely. If you wanted to run payroll on Xero and run accounting everywhere else, you're absolutely fine to do so. Um, I think I did add a pricing plan link in the chat box for you to have a look at, Samantha. If not, just Google Xero Pricing Plans UK and you should be able to find it. Fiona, where a bank account requires two signatures, can Xero payments be used for payroll? We'll find out more in the coming months, Fiona. Great question, and we have had that before. I can't answer it right now. Once the feature is released, we will give you more information on that one, if that's okay. So be sure to have a look at our web pages for any updates. Cool. We've got a couple more minutes here. We'll probably go till about 1 minute past, just to round off all the questions that we do have. Samantha, if you don't want employees to have access to payslips immediately, can you set a date for them to be available? Yes, this feature is coming soon, not currently. Have a look out over the next few weeks and months. That will be coming. So you can schedule when the payslips will be released. Victoria, if after payroll is posted and employees find a mistake in the payslip, for example, holiday payments, can we update the payslip and issue an updated one? Absolutely, yeah. It will actually reverse any auto enrollment assessments. The FPS will be adjusted and sent as a second submission, and actually the automatic journal will be refreshed as well. So we go through corrections and unscheduled pay runs in our payroll specialist course. You have a link in the chat box, so definitely have a look at that one. Um, Rachel, you said the last link isn't working. I do apologize for that. Just confirm for me, Rachel, is that the how to set up Xero payroll? If it is, I've probably entered it in wrong. So let me get it for you. Here we go. Actually, we'll just do it for our playlist section. How to, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? How to, what was it? Set up payroll? Let me have a quick look. Huh, I can't find it. Right, how to set up Xero payroll. If it's not here, they may have. Oh no, there it is. Really blind today. There we go. View full course. Let me refresh. That doesn't look right. It's one video. Okay, fair enough. Try this link if that's okay. That should work for you. Cool. I'm going to answer two more questions and I'm going to call it a day if that's okay. I mean, I am happy to stay on as long as possible. I don't know, Jasmine, if you want to jump in and just let me know if there's a deadline as to answering these questions. I'm happy to stay as long as you need me. More than happy to get them answered for you. I think there are just a couple left. The meeting schedule is about to end. Action items. Cool. How many people can it handle per month? Great question. I've run it for up to 200 employees. I worked in an ASMA registered practice, so like medical accounts and stuff. So there was NHS pensions, and I run it for up to 200. I never saw any issues, although it did take some time to load on certain pages because you've got 200 employees, right? So no massive hard limits for how many employees you can have. Cool. Yeah, cool. Okay, we'll stay on. Absolutely fine with me. Nothing left in the Q&A, but you can use that. If not, just pop them in the chat box. I'll just linger around to answer them. Rachel, glad it worked for you. Chloe, yeah, from a bank point of view, it wouldn't. Oh, okay. I think Chloe's chatting back and forth with Fiona, so I think everything is answered on that one. But yeah, by all means, I'll probably let it run for about the next 60 or so seconds, see if anything else comes in on the webinar chat box. More than happy to answer it for you. Use me whilst I'm here, is what I like to say. I'll answer any questions that come through. If not, though, once everything is answered, we will wrap it up and call it a day, and I will bid you farewell. Enjoy the rest of your week. So I'll stick around for the next 60 seconds or so, and then I'll close the webinar off. Oh, fantastic. Thanks for your kind words, everyone. Thanks for joining. And thank you to ICB for hosting this event. We will undoubtedly be on another event with ICB in the near future. So thank you, everyone. It's probably time to end. No more questions coming through. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, rest of your week, and I will speak to you all soon. Bye bye.